20,000 corpses on 20,000 wooden stakes lining the road to a city for miles. A sword killed quickly. The stake was more gruesome, and enemies were skewered in a way that missed vital organs, so the impaled men stayed alive, sometimes for days. The man that planted this forest of bodies on sticks wanted it seen. It stretched for miles on the road his enemies marched. The enemy army was 150,000 men strong. They looked in horror at their fallen comrades as they hung, dying in a forest of wooden stakes. The commander rode into the forest and looked up on the tallest stake. On it hung his own commander, rotting in the sun. When the enemy made camp that night, they dug a trench around their camp for safety, even though they outnumbered the Impaler 5 to 1. The man who planted the forest counted his kills in writing: 23,884 in a single winter, in a letter that still exists. His name was Vlad III, Dracula, son of the dragon, the Impaler. And in 2023, scientists tested the letters he handled and found traces of a rare condition. Vlad may have wept tears of blood. Some of what you've just heard sits in documents you can still read. Some of it was invented by this man's enemies, then printed and sold across Europe for money. 500 years on, people still fight about which is which. Where a document exists, I'll show you. Where none does, I'll say so. At the end, you decide. The march to that forest began weeks earlier, at the Danube. Mehmed II crossed with the largest force he'd led since the fall of Constantinople. His own count put it near 150,000 men. His cannon came up the river on galleys, and riding in that column was the man Mehmed planned to leave on Walachia's throne. His name was Radu. He was the monster's little brother. Wallachia should have fed an invading army as it moved. Instead, the column marched into ash. Vlad's men had burned their own villages ahead of the invasion, with the harvests still in the barns. They'd poisoned the wells and driven off every animal. For 7 days, the army found no people, nothing to eat, and nothing safe to drink. Summer heat came down on 150,000 men, hauling their own water through a dead country. The man they were hunting had done that to his own people. He was somewhere ahead, and he knew exactly how this army thought. Vlad was born in Transylvania around 1430, the son of a knight they called the Dragon. In his language, son of the dragon comes out as one word: Dracula. When Vlad was about 11, his father needed to prove his loyalty to the Ottoman Sultan, so he handed over his own sons as insurance. Vlad and his little brother Radu grew up hostages at the Ottoman court. The deal was standing. If their father stepped out of line, the boys died. Vlad spent 6 years like that. He learned Ottoman manners, Ottoman war, and Turkish good enough to pass for one of their own. Radu made friends there instead, and never really left. The homecoming was worse than the captivity. While the boys were away, Walachia's nobles turned on the dragon and killed him. Some accounts say they blinded Vlad's older brother with a red-hot iron. Then, they buried him alive. Vlad won the throne back in 1456 and came for the men who did it. The chronicles describe an Easter feast where he sat the guilty families down to eat. When the meal ended, his men impaled the old men outside the hall. The young ones marched 50 miles into the mountains, still in their Easter clothes. They built Vlad a castle until the clothes rotted off their backs. None of them came home. Then he turned on the empire that raised him. He refused the Sultan's gold and the 1,000 Wallachian boys the Sultan wanted for his army. In one winter, he crossed the frozen Danube and burned 800 kilometers of Ottoman riverbank. He wrote the report to the King of Hungary himself. We killed 23,884 Turks, not counting the ones we burned alive. The body count came attached, town by town. That letter still exists. Its number was in the first minute of this video. So Mehmed's army pushed deeper into the burned country, and the war that came back at it was like nothing its veterans knew. Sick men started stumbling into camp. Vlad had sent them, men dying of plague, walking in among the soldiers to die there. Plague moved through the tents. The Ottomans caught one of Vlad's scouts and threatened him with torture. The man said nothing. Mehmed remarked that a soldier like that, under a different flag, could conquer the world. Then, on a June night, a Turkish officer walked the camp lanes, past the sentries, counting tents. Nobody had posted him there. It was Vlad, in Ottoman dress, mapping the ground. Hours later, he came back with thousands of riders and torches aimed at one tent and one man. Kill the Sultan in his bed, and the invasion goes home. His riders cut their way to the grandest tents and stormed them. They were the wrong tents. They belonged to the ministers, and Mehmed lived. The Ottomans had marched on a man who attacked in the dark. That road ended at Vlad's capital. The gates stood open, and inside was nobody at all. Then, just outside the walls, the armies stopped, at the place where this video began. Miles of stakes. 20,000 dead. The dead were Ottoman prisoners, taken across a year of fighting, and that tallest stake held a man the army knew. A year earlier, the Sultan had sent a commander named Hamza to take Vlad alive. Vlad took him instead. Now Hamza rotted above the whole forest, mounted at the height his rank deserved. One eyewitness account survives, from a Greek chronicler marching with that army. He wrote that birds nested in the bodies of the dead. About the count of 20,000, he added 3 careful words. As it was said. Even the man standing on that road couldn't verify it. The empire remembered it differently again. Ottoman writers recorded an army that turned back from heat and thirst in a country burned to nothing. Their version gives the stakes no credit at all. 2 empires, 2 versions, 1 road. Pick the one you believe. By the chronicler's account, Mehmed stared up at the forest and admitted that you could not take a country from a man capable of this. The invasion turned for home. It left one thing behind: Radu. The little brother offered the nobles peace with the empire, and those nobles had just watched Vlad burn the country around them. Within months, they crowned him. Vlad's mountain castle fell soon after. Legend has it, his wife stood on the tower as soldiers closed in and threw herself into the river rather than be taken. No record names her. Locals still call the water the Princess's River. Vlad escaped over the mountains to his ally, the King of Hungary, expecting a crusade. But the king had already taken a fortune from the Pope and from Venice to fight one, and he meant to keep the money. A jailed ally was an embarrassment. A monster in your dungeon, though, justifies anything. So 3 letters surfaced in Vlad's name, offering the Sultan help invading Hungary. The Latin was clumsy, the tone groveled, and most historians agree somebody forged them. The king locked Vlad up anyway. Then, the stories went to work. The printing press was a generation old. Pamphlets on Dracula's cruelties poured out of German cities, promising boilings and burnings and worse. The horror went right on the cover, because horror sold. They became some of the first bestsellers in print. The most famous image shows Dracula at dinner in his forest of stakes, dipping his bread in blood. Nobody has ever confirmed that dinner. It's a book cover, and its authors left fingerprints. The stories came out of the Saxon merchant towns on Vlad's border. Years before, in a trade war, Vlad had impaled 41 of their merchants. The men who built the monster had a score to settle and a product to sell. Even his cell fed the legend. A visiting bishop passed on the guard's gossip. The prisoner caught rats and impaled them on splinters of wood. Second-hand, unprovable. More than a decade passed before a neighboring prince talked Hungary into releasing its monster. The prince wanted one thing: Vlad, back on a throne, pointed at the Ottomans. By then, Radu was dead. In the winter of 1476, Vlad fought his way onto the throne one last time. He held it a matter of weeks. Then he died in battle near a lake called Snagov, facing a rival backed by an Ottoman army. Nobody agrees on how he died. One account says a Turkish assassin reached him in disguise. His own family told it the other way around. Vlad went out dressed as a Turk one final time, and in the confusion, his own men killed him. If that version is true, the trick he learned as a boy hostage finally worked too well. One chronicler adds that his head went south to the Sultan and stood on display in Constantinople, on a stake. 4 centuries later, an Irish novelist went hunting for a name for his vampire and found Vlad's. Bram Stoker borrowed almost nothing else. He didn't need to. The story already held everything. A count from Transylvania, a castle in the mountains, and a creature that came at night, drank blood in the legends, and could pass for anyone. In the novel, a wooden stake is how you kill the monster. History ran it the other way. The stake was how the monster killed. In 1933, archaeologists opened the tomb at Snagov Monastery, the one legend says holds Vlad the Impaler. Under the stone, they found no prints. Horse bones. The grave of Dracula is empty. The dinner among the stakes was cover art. His own letter counted 23,884. The German printers who sold the monster made fortunes on him. In Romania, the same man is remembered as the prince who stood up to an empire, and they still call him a hero. 500 years on, people still argue over which Vlad is real.